The Draft Lottery, a live report on tonight's picking of the birthdays for the draft. Here at Selective Service Headquarters in Washington.
Of the troops fighting in the Vietnam War, 25% were drafted.
Good evening. It was 29 years ago that the first and most famous lottery number, 158, was drawn as the United States entered World War II.
My draft number was 127 out of 365.
Rick Collins works at the VA Center in Oakland, California. He was in his 20s when he went before the draft board back in 1970.
Well, they went the whole thing about wanted to know what I did and letting me know that they were ready to make me 1A so that I could serve my country. And they were going through all types of machinations to try to make me feel uncomfortable. None of the people out there looked like my neighbors except for one guy. They were mostly older white guys, and they were the ones who were making the decisions.
Collins is African American. He grew up in a working-class neighborhood in Philadelphia. He says, standing before the draft board, he felt like his life was in their hands.
Well, nobody fled to Canada from my neighborhood.
Where Collins grew up, military service was an honorable profession. His father was in the military.
Most of the people in my neighborhood were in the military. They were either drafted or they enlisted to get ahead of the draft, to have some choice about what service they went into.
So in the end, Collins volunteered. He had a commission to serve as a social worker, counseling soldiers fighting in Vietnam, many of whom were severely traumatized by the war. He says when he was young, he didn't really think twice about the draft.
Getting drafted was a rite of passage for most of the young men in the area.
Collins says some of the old-timers who were drafted in earlier wars want to see the draft reinstated. They say it inspires patriotism, and there's something to the idea that every citizen should carry the burden of protecting a country. But Collins says he doesn't think it could ever work in this society, in part because we no longer feel threatened.
When we had the draft before World War II, there was obviously a threat. And then we had the threat of worldwide communism. That doesn't exist now, which is why just about all of America's allies have gotten rid of the draft.
And without a threat, there's no real motivation.
I don't get the sense that there was this feeling of everybody wanting to pitch in or everybody needing to pitch in.
Even though fewer and fewer Americans have any connection to the military, Collins believes societal attitudes are shifting again towards support of veterans, not an attitude he saw much of during his youth.
I can remember from Vietnam down to when I was mobilized during Desert Storm, there was a whole sort of change where people had actually called me a baby killer during the time I was in the military. But I can remember after Desert Storm, people would walk up and shake your hand and want to talk to you. And if you made the mistake and went to a bar in uniform when you're someplace else on a mission, then people would want to buy you a drink and stuff like that.
Collins prefers a volunteer army because he believes people who want to be there will do a better job. And as long as Americans support their veterans, people will want to serve. For Philosophy Talk, I'm Caitlin Esch.